This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 15th of April 2019, and I am 2J.
I am 2M.
And I am Miss K, your host. Again, in case you missed it, this is Winning Headlines. Let's take a look at today's headlines. The Star, TSC blasts Jubilee for frequent strikes. Daily Nation, Oko set to clear controversial Eurobond deal.
Yes.
And The Standard, 20 targeted as plot on Ruto allies moves to houses.
Whoa.
Let's start with The Star. TSC blasts Jubilee for frequent strikes. I say we trash this entire headline,
Yeah.
plus the story, plus
Yes.
everything around the fact that the education sector feels that they are underwhelmed
Yes.
by the government.
It's not,
Yeah.
It's not
much of a story.
It's not much
Yeah,
of a story.
No.
but before we go any further, and I've said this before, there is a trend within our headlines. If it is not corruption, it is something to do with education.
Yeah, that's very true.
Well,
If
we
it is not
note
education, it is something to do with drugs. It's like they have a template for headlines.
They do.
It's
and
clickbait.
It's clickbait, and I say we trash it.
Yeah.
But I noticed in the upper thirds that The Star had a more interesting story that I think should have been the
Yeah.
headline.
Yes.
And it begins, death threat, question mark.
Yes.
DP's henchmen take on Kotu boss ATWOLI over 2022 race.
Now
To him.
that would have been a fantastic headline.
Oh yeah.
You know, immediately those words left his mouth, I think it was a death threat as well.
Please tell us what the words were before we go into whether or not they were a death threat, because now we're trying to
I want to
take them
quote.
apart.
I want to quote the newspaper
Yes.
who quoted Francis Atwoli.
In fact, let's just open the story.
And
It
he
was
said,
page 2.
William Ruto will not appear on the ballot box in 2022. I don't know whether he's become a fortune teller or a shrink, but I think there are some lines, some red lines that are getting crossed.
I'd
Yeah.
like to remember something. You know, once you say that the DP, acha nikuambie, mimi nataka kuambia kitu moja, jina la William Samoei Ruto haitakuwako.
Yeah.
I note that, I think we're remembering as a national psyche something that Atwoli had said before.
Yes.
And I think he said it with reference to Mushai. And when he said that, and you know, we're very suspicious as just generally as Africans and even as Kenyans, we're highly suspicious.
Yes.
And when he said that about Mushai then was brutally murdered.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is why I think there's this reference to a death threat.
Yes.
Because Atwoli said it once before,
Yeah.
and he was a professor of doom.
Yes.
And then Ruto's pilot.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that the
Let me
crash.
just throw that out there.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
crashed as well. And
Yeah.
I think someone mentioned that maybe it was a play. Let's
Yeah.
see if it's doable and how it would be doable. Then this statement was made. So I don't know if Atwoli is a professor or prophesying something, but
Whew, I think red lines are getting crossed here. I don't think someone should be recording a statement at DCI, because to me that sounds
Strong words,
you are going after someone's.
I still
Like-
thinking that should have been the headline.
I still think that should have been the
I think
headline.
the Star was afraid.
But they still put it there, death threat, question mark.
In that corner.
And I put it there, death
All
threat,
right, I
question
say we
mark.
toss.
Yes.
I say we toss it, but before we toss it, let me bring back our audience to our criteria that we use to break down the headlines for you. We ask ourselves 3 questions. Is this headline topical, or is it speculative? Is it groundbreaking, or is it repetitive? And finally, is it thoughtful or just plain lazy?
This headline is
If
useless.
they picked that other headline, the upper thirds, we'd have a headline.
We toss.
Toss it.
Okay.
And leading on to 20 targeted as plot on Ruto allies moves to houses.
All right, 2M, why don't you give us some context for this story?
Context is some members of parliament and senators had their security withdrawn on Saturday. All right, and these people are seen to be allied to William Ruto, or
Yeah.
Deputy President William Ruto. I think the system is being vindictive, and if this is a strategy to keep people quiet or to hush some people, then it is not clever.
But is this a smart strategy to employ? Isn't this close? This is It's intimidation.
It's intimidation,
Right?
but
Oh,
it's
it's
not.
definitely outright
Yeah.
intimidation, and they can tell it, and so can we.
No, my biggest draw from this is what are the repercussions of this? If half of those people that are getting their security withdrawn are from central Kenya or from the Gema community, let's say it, then there could be a backlash on the president.
But there's a question I want to ask.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we do talk about lifting the veil
Of
of
ignorance.
ignorance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that the media here is being misleading.
Mm.
Because as far as I remember, at some point last year, it was mentioned that the security details of MPs was going to be reduced.
Or
Yes.
at least rationalized.
Or at least rationalized, exactly.
You know, I had what Charles Owino, the police spokesman, said on Saturday, and he said, I think on Friday or Saturday, whatever it was, and he said that the regular police will be withdrawn as bodyguards, and administration police would be used as
Instead.
protective services for these MPs. But when the MPs were giving their statements to the media, they said, yes, it is true. Their security has been withdrawn, all right? And it just so appeared that it was them. This thing was not, the withdrawal was not across the board, as it should have been.
So I think that they have taken a situation that was legitimately going to happen and they've turned it to intimidate people.
Possibly,
Yeah.
yes, possibly.
Is this good politics?
What I can
don't know.
say is this.
Yeah.
If you withdraw my security detail,
Yeah,
and I am a person who's feeling targeted and intimidated,
yes,
you're leaving me exposed
Yes.
to get an alternative security detail.
absolutely.
And we have no shortage of criminals in Kenya who are willing and ready to protect.
Yeah.
You have Mungiki
To fight for
protecting
what they
people.
believe in, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
We're just saying it.
But then this also ties in with death threats, because if you're going to withdraw security from MPs, what in essence you're telling them is you're exposed to anything that could happen.
Are we tossing the headline?
Yes, we're tossing the headline.
Is it such
Sorry
a hot
to
issue?
cut you off, yeah.
You're feeling insensitive.
Final headline, Daily Nation, Oko set to clear controversial Eurobond deal. And this, we have to be clear, he's clearing Eurobond 1, on which his office had made some audit queries, and on which our former leader of opposition, now member of the Handshake,
Yes.
Raila Odinga, had stated
Yeah.
was controversial and wanted accountability on where the money was spent.
You know what? Look, great news that
Yeah, I
this
think
is,
this is a very positive story.
great news
Yeah.
that it's being cleared. But why in the first place? You're the Auditor General of this republic, right? You say that they could have been this missing or there was a query or whatever. But then you come out later, maybe 2 years later, and you say that this deal was above board. What this does is this. Because we spent about 3-4 months with Eurobond spread on all the headlines across the media, right? Now, what is the chance, or what are the chances that there is another query that the Auditor General has put out there that was actually above board? Point is, we have been putting things in the media
Yeah.
that point at government badly, and then we come much later and say,
To
oh
clean
wait,
it up, yeah.
we made a mistake. This
But we
was
don't
right.
spend 6 months cleaning up the mess. You know, we lay it out and
Yes.
give the scandal for a very long time, and you build up the public psyche, giving them numbers, facts, figures,
Yes.
information, leaks.
Yes.
And you don't come back and do 6 months of erasure
Absolutely.
of that and tell
Yeah.
them, no, it was actually clean. This is
Absolutely.
the people who did it
I know.
correctly.
Absolutely.
It's lazy,
You
most
know,
definitely.
the biggest lesson to this, and you guys keep telling, why are you people hitting, why are you hitting Kinoti? I'm going to say it again. You see, the investigative agencies, DCI, ESCC, they've been putting these things in the media, and they say 9 billion shillings scandal at NYS, 9 billion. And then the charge sheet reads a paltry 400 million shillings.
Yeah.
Not that it is right to steal 400 million shillings.
Where's
but-
that other 8.4?
Yeah, you have already conditioned the psyche of the people or or the public to believe that 9 billion bob was stolen, and yet the charge sheet is much shorter than that. And then you withdraw cases of 11 people.
Yeah, I think it's lazy work on part of the government, but also on the part of the media.
But I do
So-
like this headline. I think it's positive. I think
Yes.
it's groundbreaking. It tells
Yes.
us that, you know what?
Yes.
I don't know what the hullabaloo was all about.
Yeah.
And probably the problem was overplayed.
So do
Yes,
we have a winning
absolutely.
headline?
I think we have a winning headline.
All
I'd
right.
say the
I would
Daily
agree.
Nation gives us our winning headline today. It's a positive story.
I
Eurobond
agree.
is clear.
I
All right,
agree.
perfect.
Keep it. Let me bring back our papers and say on to our next segment, the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. And just like the headlines, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to break them down for you. We ask ourselves 3 questions. Yeah. Is the cartoon humorous or is it dry? Is the cartoon satirical or is it pessimistic? And finally, is the cartoon effective or is it just plain lazy?
Right. We start with the star.
Okay. Also, we trashed it so quickly.
Yeah. So here we have some cockroaches that say Tanga Tanga on their backs, have been labeled. The cockroaches have been labeled Tanga Tanga.
Yes.
And they are being lifted from under a veil that says VIP protection.
Yes. And there's a hand there.
But the hand
has distinctive colors.
Yes.
Of the police. So this goes back to the headline from the Standard. 20 MPs who had their police services removed.
There's something, guys, in this cartoon that I don't like. Right? And what Ozone has done is he's characterized the Tanga Tanga team as cockroaches. If you guys remember what happened in Rwanda when ethnic Tutsis were labeled as what?
Cockroaches.
I think it's a level of dehumanization. All right? And what do people do to cockroaches when they want to kill them?
You exterminate them. All right. Yeah, I know. Okay, I do. I think that interpretation is a bit of a stretch. Okay. I really do. I think that it's too much to compare Rwanda and what happened there to Kenya off a cartoon.
Well, what I can say is this. You cannot... What I will try and meet you both halfway for this reason. The imagery of a cockroach is still very, very derogatory.
Yes.
And it's in poor taste. Because we all know that once you see a cockroach in your house, there are more underneath, 1. And 2, I'm serious, there are more underneath, 1. And 2, when you see it, you never leave cockroaches. You don't say live and let live with a cockroach. Never do you say that. You're definitely going to crush it. And that imagery of picking a member of parliament who's assigned a label, Tanga Tanga, and then representing him to the general public through political piece as a cockroach, has that derogation and it's in poor taste. That has to be agreed. And even it creates, and we have to also remember that the media in Rwanda were the ones who created the background of acceptance for the coming massacre. So we don't want to be associated with that, nor do we want to have that imagery attached to us. I think that is something that we have to note.
I buy your argument.
Okay.
I do. So no, I believe we're tossing this then.
Oh yes, we are tossing
it. Let's toss it.
We have to toss it.
All right. Very well. On to the Standard.
Okay. Here we go. Take this one. Let's go for it. Let's clean our palates.
What is this guy over here?
So in the Standard today, what do we have to
Gado.
I do like this.
All right. Caricature of 3 people. President Uhuru Kenyatta, Deputy President William Ruto, Uhuru Kenyatta the Prince, William Ruto with a Kalasinga turban around him, and ODM leader Raila Odinga.
This is orange pajamas.
Yes, and they're all playing a game of Monopoly on a thing labeled Kenya, right?
It's Kenyan version of Monopoly.
So we have sugar, we have scams, Eurobond.
Yes.
We have dairy, we have banks, we have real estate.
We have Mashamba.
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot of the recent scandals that have been out in the public.
Yeah.
Or even just the, if I could call them, the commercial interests that are assigned to each of these persons. But I'd like to note something interesting. Whereas Gado is clearly showing us what is assigned to our president and what is assigned to the DP, what is assigned to Raila is a bit hidden. Aside from sugar, I can't see what else is on that other side.
I actually want to look at that differently, because when you play Monopoly, what's on my side isn't necessarily what I have. So what I actually noticed was in Monopoly, you have a piece that is assigned to you. So I would look and I'd say, this is Kevin's piece, this is what he owns.
And that piece is the one that then...
But in this cartoon, we do not know what pieces are assigned to which people. And I think that's an accurate reflection of the Kenyan Monopoly. We do not know who's involved in what, who owns what.
Yeah, and I like that point. And the context and what I'm about to bring in is this. What Gado is trying to tell us is that we are just pawns in a small game called Kenya, right? The interests here are far superior to what we think as Holoi Polois. We think of corruption, we think of silly things. These guys in a game, these guys are in a game to control the interest of this nation. Now, when you go and throw a rock at someone else because you don't like who's been elected, you're the dumb one.
And I do love this cartoon. So, but we'll keep it in the parking bay.
Yes,
Let's see
let's
what
look at
else
the
is in the
Nation.
Daily Nation
Yeah.
before we bring back our judgment on it. And today we have a cartoon from Iga.
Hi, Iga, please do better.
Okay.
Honestly, this cartoon looks like it was drawn in 1999. Can we... Well, let's describe it. Let's let people see what's happening. So we have an Olympic track, and it says Economic Growth Championships. In first place, we have Ethiopia, followed by Rwanda, followed by... What does that
Senegal.
say? Senegal.
Senegal.
And right behind in last place is Kenya, chained down by debt.
Trying to make it and run.
So lazy.
Very pessimistic, but I think it is background. I don't know what his background is, but trying to research on it, I think he's basing his trajectory on IMF growth outlooks that were released.
Okay.
So
Look, when you even do the fundamentals of Kenya's economy, the only country that has had its currency appreciating against the dollar in sub-Saharan Africa this year, it's Kenya, right? I mean, Rwanda's GDP is what we have in our reserves. So,
Yeah, it's a negative cartoon. It's lazy. Yeah, do better. It's not good.
well then, that leaves us with the standard. So Gado gives us our winning cartoon, Kenya Monopoly.
Yes.
Yes.
I loved it. It was very funny.
I like it as well,
Do we have a final thought today?
as always. And now, our final report.
Were you reading another book?
I told you, I read.
Wow, do I read very fast?
So widely.
His speed of reading is what I
read well.
question.
I'm so fast. Anyway, let me tell you about a book I've been reading.
Tell me.
Right? It's a book titled The Gatekeepers by a man called Chris Whipple, right? And it's about how the White House chiefs of staff define the American presidency, right? Would you want to tell us who gatekeepers are?
Okay, well, gatekeepers are people who have unprecedented, full-on access to the president. And because they have this access to the president, they're able to decide who can see the president, when they can see the president, and what issues they can present before the president.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they also have two very important tasks. One, these guys set and push the president's agenda.
Yes.
And two,
Yes.
they take any flack. They protect the president from the negative consequences of any decisions he may have made.
Yes.
In fact, they agree to do that. That's one of the prerequisites of their job.
Yes.
Yeah, so these are people whose role is to get stuff done and to get it done quickly.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. The reason, guys, I sort of asked that question was this. My feeling is, I don't think our president has gatekeepers who have the guts to stand up to him, right? Now, if
he's surrounded by yes men.
He's surrounded by yes men, right? And that is based on some decisions that we are seeing. I mean, some things that we are seeing on our headlines.
Yeah.
Now, if you go back into history, Moi, Kibaki, Kenyatta had G.K. Karithi, he had Biu Koinange, he had Charles Jonjo. Moi had General Sumboiwo, Nicholas Biwott, J.C. Kulei. Kibaki had Nick Wanjohi, Francis Kimemia. Gatekeepers, guys who could stand up to the president and say, boss, please, no, we will go this way, because if you go this way, there will be a threat.
Yeah. These are men who were experienced and competent.
Yes,
Yes, but they also do two things. And I'll add to exactly what you've said.
Yeah.
Because you see, the thing about being a gatekeeper is that they do not run government.
Yes.
They're not the civil service.
Absolutely.
But they do make the critical decisions. That is where governing takes place.
Yes.
When they sit down, as Prof says, government happens.
Yes.
But they also have, and this is what you're alluding to, that ability to speak truth to power.
Yes.
So they're able to tell the president,
I like
no,
that. Speak
Yeah.
truth
this is
to
not
power.
what we're going to do. This is what we're going. They're able to tell the president the negative consequences of decisions he's going to make, and be able to turn him from a trajectory that is politically damaging.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'd want to make a submission that I think the president is being led by people who are politically incompetent. And I say politically incompetent so as not to say that they're not intelligent, because I think they are intelligent men. They're just being misled.
Yes.
And I think unfortunately they have fallen prey to this phenomenon that we call the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Whoa.
Okay.
Which is a psychological phenomenon which leads incompetent people to overestimate their ability because they cannot grasp how much they do not know.
Whoa.
Okay. I'll make a note on that.
I have an idea who that is.
Oh my goodness.
Keep
But I
that to
will
yourself.
make a note on that. I will say this.
Yeah.
Before Nixon, as a president in America, there were no proper position of White House Chief of Staff.
Yes.
And previous presidents used to be led by Their close advisors would be family members. And I know we've gone full
What a mess.
circle because Donald Trump is taking us back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether I want to question our own president and say that, because we have noted that for you to have a good chief of staff, they have to be able to take those falls for you.
Yes.
They have to have a good
Yes.
competence in they have a good political acumen and are able to make you navigate the political
Yes.
minefield that is the presidency
Yeah.
in a way that they can take the fall for you and even go to prison for you.
Yes.
Nixon's
Yeah.
chief of staff, I will note, did go to prison for Watergate.
Yeah. So I guess, at this point, maybe we're urging the president, take a look at the people around you.
Yes.
And, sometimes you have to have people who tell you uncomfortable truths.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's necessary. Today our winning headline was a Daily Nation. Our winning cartoon was a Standard Guard duo. This is Winning Headlines. See you tomorrow.